Hi English 101I students. I hope you're all doing well. I'm ready to jump into week 4 of our course. For those of you who are in the United States, you know that tomorrow is a holiday for any face-to-face classes you have. You won't be attending class. You'll be able to take a little time for yourself tomorrow. If you are in your home country, happy Monday to you as well. So to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing here in week 4, okay, so we'll head over to our course modules. And just as a quick review of week 3, you learned about paragraph structure, basic essay structure, how to set up your document in MLA style. And I'll be looking at all those assignments in the next few days and giving you feedback on them. And those are all meant to prepare you for what's coming up in Module 4. We're only going to work in part of Module 4 this week. This module will last us a few weeks because it's your first major essay, the narrative essay. But this week we'll still do a few more smaller activities, and that will get us ready to write the first draft of your essay. So going into Module 4, okay, so you'll see the usual placeholders we have here for anywhere where I put videos about the modules. So you'll see the link to this video when you open up Module 4. And then in the Module 4 due dates, notice that you've got assignments 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 that are due next Sunday, September 13th. Also, if we go over to course information and take a look at the course calendar, if you happen to have downloaded this course calendar and saved it on your computer somewhere, I just wanted you to know I made a small change to week 4. I actually originally had 4 assignments due for this week, but when I looked at them a little bit more closely, I realized that it was kind of a lot to do for this week. And I thought it was better spaced out if I took one of those assignments and moved them to next week, to week 5. So you'll notice, just in case you happen to have the old copy of this course calendar, week 4 now has just 3 assignments instead of 4. So we'll go back to our module folder and I'll walk you through those 3 assignments. Okay, let's get back to where we need to be. Okay, so the first of your assignments is a grammar focus. So remember last week you looked at sentence types, right? There's simple sentences, compound sentences, compound complex sentences, complex sentences. You learned about those 4 types and took a quiz on it. So this time we're going to be taking that knowledge that you have of what makes a good sentence, how you put together a well-written sentence, and we're going to apply that in some writing that you've already done in the past. So remember those grammar diagnostic essays? We're using them a lot here in the first few weeks because it's the only piece of writing we have to go on. But it serves a lot of good purposes for us until we get to your first major essay assignment. But you'll see that our grammar focus this week builds upon those sentence types that you learned last week. So in this grammar focus, we're going to be looking at some problems that writers sometimes have with sentences. And these are called run-on sentences, comma splices, and sentence fragments. So now that you're familiar with how to write a good sentence, we'll look at some examples of these sentence errors and then how you can correct them in your own writing. So the first thing that you'll need to do is watch these 2 videos. The first video gives you an explanation of run-on sentences and comma splices. And the second video gives you an explanation of sentence fragments. And just so you're aware, these are sentence problems that even native speakers have. So this is certainly not exclusive to second language learners. Lots of people make these kinds of mistakes. The other thing you should know as an English language learner is that the rules may be different in your native language. I remember years ago when I took a Chinese course, I remember my professor telling us that comma splices, which you will learn about in the first video, were completely fine in written Chinese. There was no kind of error, or there wasn't a problem with writing a sentence in that way. But in English, there's kind of a missing connector in those sentences that a reader automatically looks for. So, it's important to know that what may be correct or incorrect in your language may not apply to English and vice versa. So That's one of the great things about knowing more than one language is you kind of learn a different system. You learn different patterns of thinking in different languages. Different languages have different ways of expressing ideas. So, as I said, what may be correct in English may not be the same in your language. So once you have watched those videos and you have a pretty good idea of what those 3 kinds of sentence problems in English are, then you're going to apply your knowledge about sentence types and errors in your own writing. So this is step 3 of this first task. To do this, I want you to go back to your original diagnostic essays with all the number comments inserted. That's the very first one that I sent back to you with all the numbers, and then in week 2 of the semester, you sent it back to me with corrections. This time we're going to look at that same diagnostic essay, but you're only going to focus on certain numbers now. You're not going to look at the entire thing. I really want to point out specific areas within that diagnostic essay. So today or tomorrow by the latest, I'll email each of you your original version of that diagnostic essay, the very first one I sent back to you. It may be difficult to go back and dig that up from your files because you would have modified it and made corrections to it. I want you to have the original version, so I'm going to email that back to you today or tomorrow. And then I'm going to ask you in that diagnostic essay to only look for any sentence highlighted with a number 11, which would indicate a run-on sentence or a comma splice, or a number 12, which would be a fragment. And you'll understand what those are after you've watched the 2 videos. And then I want you to correct only those sentences using what you learned from the videos. And if you don't happen to have a number 11 or 12 marked in your essay, which might be the case for a couple of students, point out at least 2 examples of sentences you believe are well written and explain why you think so. So this is really tailored to you, the individual student. If you have 11s or 12s, just make corrections to those. If you don't have them, find me at least 2 sentences that are well written and explain why you think so. Once you've made those corrections, you'll submit your essay with the revised sentences at the assignment link above. So you'll just click on 4.1 right here and you'll upload your document from your computer. So don't worry about correcting everything. You're only going to be correcting number 11, number 12, or pointing out well-written sentences. So it shouldn't take you too long to do it. But the idea is that I really want you to just focus on that specific error within your essays. I don't want you to look at everything else. And as we go through the rest of the semester, we'll begin to move away from this diagnostic essay and start to look at drafts of the other essays that you begin writing starting next week. Okay, moving down to assignment 4.2. Now we're going to get into looking at some elements that you'll need to start putting together the first essay, the narrative essay, which we'll begin writing next week. So in 4.2, we're going to be looking at attention getters and thesis statements. Okay, so for this assignment, you'll refer to the narrative essays, Stories from Athletes folder above. Now, I decided to kind of focus on themes related to athletes because originally when I planned this class, everybody enrolled in the class was an athlete. I realize there are a couple of students in the class who are not athletes, but I think you'll still be fine with this kind of theme or topic that we might follow throughout the whole semester. If for some reason you really don't like sports and you feel like you'll be bored for some reason with this topic, you can always reach out to me and we'll find you an alternative. But I think this topic will work well for all of us, even the non-athletes in the class. So, in this folder, you'll notice that I have included lots of stories from different athletes in different sports. I tried to come up with kind of a variety of sports. And we'll see different sports throughout the different example essays that you'll see throughout the semester. So we've got tennis, we have soccer, we have golf, and I even put one for boxing in there. A famous American boxer, Muhammad Ali. So the idea with this is that, as number 1 tells you, as you'll see in some sample narrative essays by professional athletes, Every good story starts with an effective attention getter. So in the PDF document attached to this assignment, you'll see a variety of narrative hook ideas that can serve as inspiration for your own narrative essay. So let's take a quick peek at that. And this just gives you some ideas about how you can begin your own narrative essay. What kind of opening sentence could you use to grab your reader's attention? There are various examples there. So these are ones that you can take a look at and kind of decide if one of them might be good for your narrative essay. And then once you've gotten familiar with those, then I'll ask you to go to this folder where you see these stories from athletes and take a brief look at the attention getters in each of the 5 essays. So you're just looking at the opening paragraph. And in a paragraph of 3 to 5 sentences, explain which introduction appealed to you most and why. So you'll briefly look at each of the introduction paragraphs of each of those athletes' narrative stories and explain why it grabbed your attention, and if you would consider using a similar attention getter in your own essay. So the PDF attached right here is giving you some ideas, and the 5 essays I've uploaded in this folder above are also giving you some ideas. So you're going to choose the one you like the best and explain, which one appealed to you the most. Then, the second part of this assignment is to read the brief explanation of narrative thesis statements in this image right here, and then look at the narrative thesis statement in your chosen essay. So in number 1, you're going to be picking out an essay that you liked the best. You're going to be looking at all the introduction paragraphs, deciding which one is most effective, which one grabs the reader's attention most. And in that specific essay, then I want you to look at the thesis statement, which is generally the last sentence of the first paragraph. Sometimes it can be the second paragraph, but most often it's the first paragraph. So you determine that after you've looked at that essay. So once you have located the narrative thesis statement in your chosen essay, explain why or why it doesn't work as a narrative thesis statement in about 3 to 5 sentences. So what you submit to this assignment, you can type it into the text box, you can put it on a Word document, so you can put both your evaluation of the attention getter and the thesis statement together in one kind of, assignment of 2 paragraphs. You can put it here in this text box, or you can browse your computer for a document. It's completely up to you which one you would like to do. All right, and the last of your assignments this week will be practicing a skill we call annotation. And annotation just means taking notes, writing ideas down in an essay or an article or something that you're reading, most often for academic purposes. This is a really, truly useful skill, not just for this course, but for any course that you take at Lander or any other college or university you might attend in the United States. When you move on to English 102, annotation will be a very, very useful skill as you start learning to research and collect ideas from outside authors. So this is really going to help you out. So for this assignment, I'd like you to keep working with the same narrative essay you chose for 4.2 above, the one that you thought had the best attention getter, the one whose thesis statement you evaluated. Keep on working with that same essay, so that way you're not reading 5 different essays, which might be a lot of work. Okay, after reading your chosen essay once from beginning to end, annotate it using some of the techniques in the image below. So basically what I want you to do is kind of add notes to it as you read. What stood out to you that was interesting? What questions do you have about what the author wrote? Are there any words that are unfamiliar to you? Maybe you'll circle those. Maybe you'll underline ideas that seem very important, or maybe people's names or things like that. So you'll see in this image that I've included here, there are a lot of suggestions that I've given you for annotation. You can ask the author a question about a passage. Yes, you're not seeing the author face to face, but even though you're not in the same place at the same time, you can still ask the author what he or she meant by what they said. Is there some confusing part of their story? Are you feeling like you agree or disagree with something they said or wrote in their story? Any connections you can make to their story from your own experience? What's missing in the text? When you encounter a word you don't know, you could look up the definition, or you can just circle it and come back to it and look it up later. That's usually the way I handle that. So just to give you an idea of what a good annotated text looks like, I have given you an example right here at this link. We can go ahead and take a look at that. It's going to take us outside the Blackboard environment here, but if you scroll all the way down on this page, you can actually open up this image and even expand it a little bit, and it'll show you all the different funny ways you can annotate a text. So this writer really went crazy. They drew arrows, they drew pictures, they asked questions, they made notes, they underlined things, used exclamation points and question marks. So there are lots of different ways you can mark up a text. So for your annotation of your chosen essay, I'm going to ask you to do a total of 10 annotations, so 10 markups within that essay. And it can be anywhere in the essay, in the beginning, in the middle, and the end, and 3 different types of annotations. So of the 10 that you do, maybe you can underline, maybe you can add comments in the margins, maybe you can also circle unfamiliar words. Those would be 3 examples that you can take from this graphic you see down here. I'll also share with you a couple of students who did annotations for another class. So one student decided to do it in a Word document. So you'll notice in her Word document that she decided to highlight some sentences. She decided to mark it with comments in red. She highlighted some text in blue, the ones that stood out to her or maybe that she wanted to look up later. Another thing you can do if you are annotating your text in a Word document like that, you could also add comments in the margins like I did when I reviewed your diagnostic essays. So you can go to the Review tab. I can highlight something in the text, add a comment, and say, who are these guys? So that's a really great way to interact with your text or your story as you read it. So you could do this in a Word document like this student did and then upload it. Another option for this is you can print a copy of the essay and you can just mark it up by hand and take a picture of it, email it to yourself, and then upload it here. So you can upload an image or you can upload a document. So you'll see that this student decided to do some highlighting. She, it actually created a little key up here for herself. So anything underlined in green is important. Yellow means something else. A star means something else. She circled unknown words, wrote question marks for unclear ideas, and you'll see that she did that throughout. So that is another option that you can try. So for all of these essays, the one that you've chosen from this folder, I have them uploaded there as web links, but I'll also add links in Microsoft Word documents, so that way you can choose if you want to print out the article, if you want to kind of mark it up using tools in Microsoft Word like the two students did that I just showed you. And then once you're finished with that, all you have to do is click on the link, and you can either upload a Word document. You can also upload an image if you wanted to take a picture of your work. So both of those are options for you. So that's basically everything for this week, 4.1, 4.2, and then 4.3. And moving on to next week, we'll stay in this folder, but next week we'll move on to planning your narrative essay, kind of mapping out your ideas after you've looked at this week's examples. And then you're actually going to be drafting the first version of your narrative essay. So you're welcome to go ahead and look at these 2 assignments this week if you want to get a preview. You're certainly not obligated to work on them yet, but it doesn't hurt to look ahead, right? So if you have any questions about any aspect of how to do these first 3 assignments, how to submit them, anything that seems technologically complicated or the instructions don't make sense, please let me know. You can come by the office hours, virtual office hours, or you can email me and we will get it figured out together. So I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the day off tomorrow if you're on campus at Lander, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.